Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast, one man's anonymous and live account of if he should get a divorce or stay married. He's been cheated on and he's cheated, protecting the innocent with changed voice patterns, the omission of names, ages and genders. His authentic journey and account of the daily events of his marriage are helping him sort out his feelings and not get lost in the ups or the downs. New episodes are released daily. Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else. At Divorce Diaries podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
Today, something amazing happened. I had an interview with a podcaster that's a member of Podcast One, same podcast I listen to, same podcast management company, I believe it is, that I listen to with Adam Carolla. And she's wanting to interview me on her podcast. Unsolicited, she cold emailed me, reached out and said, hey, I heard one of your episodes, which I don't know how she did because I've taken all of my episodes down. None of my episodes are public anymore, not until the start of 2021, where there will be episodes released. But I took every episode down because I felt that they were all so toxic. Listening back to all of those episodes, it just showed me as the immature, angry, frustrated, lost man that was out of hope, or that was trying to search for hope. I didn't know my head from my ass, and my heart was broken, and I was dealing with a lot of anger, and my wife and I just really weren't seeing eye to eye. And I don't think for a minute that I would have started recording the podcast in such an angry way if I felt like I was heard. We as humans do a lot of things not knowing if we're heard or if what we do matters. We sometimes as parents like to throw what we do for our kids in their face. Do you know what it's like driving across town to take you to hockey practice? Do you understand how much private school costs? Do you know how much I paid for those shoes? Maybe even things like food. You kind of throw that in their face too. Maybe not in such a flagrant way because it's food, but you're always reminding them maybe how money doesn't grow on trees or something like that. And it's really, you could be a piece of shit parent, and you could be saying those things because you just want to talk shit. But really deep down, you know what it's costing you. Time, money, effort, energy, love, sweat, tears, blood. It's costing you something, and you want the transaction to be sort of acknowledged. I walk into a supermarket, I pick up the eggs, I walk to the register. Basically, they say, you can't leave until you give us $2.50 for these dozen eggs. You pull out the $2.50, you give them the $2.50, and they say, you can now leave with the eggs. Everyone feels like the agreed upon exchange has been exercised. The price is listed. You knew that. You came up here. We scanned it. You paid us. You leave with the product. There's an exchange. When you bring up stuff to your kids, you know how much private school is? You're trying to let them know, hey, back there, aisle 3, dairy products, education products for you, right there, done. It's going to be $20,000. That's how much private school is. So when you come to the register to pay the $20,000, I know you don't have it. But you're going to come to the register, you're going to say, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. And we're going to say, in lieu of your $20,000 that you don't fucking have, feel free to exit. Good job, kid. You know that I'm doing something for you. You could say that scratches the surface of the narcissistic part of us. We want to feel validated and we want to feel like our opinions matter. And the only reason that I made those first many episodes of the Divorce Diaries that were full of anger, frustration, rants, and tirades, temper tantrums basically, was because I really wanted to feel like whatever I did that I felt was attaboy, like whatever I did, it was it would be heard. It would be realized. But when I just felt like it wasn't, and after my wife had her affair, I felt just a lot like I didn't matter. Everything that I did over the years didn't matter because, like it or not, right, wrong, or indifferent, men measure themselves by the value that they bring to the world. We like to leave things differently than when we found it. We like to maintain things to the standard that they exist already, like plumbing. Let's take that, plumbing. We hear that there's a clog. We want to relieve that because that's not how the pipe is supposed to work. Water is supposed to flow through the pipe end to end without obstruction. When we find that there's an obstruction, we want to remove it. We want to solve that problem in the pipe, the clog. Or, wow, we don't have plumbing in this building. There's no plumbing here. There's a new basement in our new home. There's no bathroom in the basement. Oh, so I need to figure out how to get everything necessary to put pipes in this basement with a toilet and all that to create a bathroom where those pipes could and eventually will get clogged at some point. So we're bringing value where some solution doesn't exist. We want to make it and build it. Then if people or something like that does exist, we want to maintain it and keep it at its highest level of health. Good men anyway. So when you feel like, and this was a big feeling of mine, I felt like, don't you see what I do? I would not work my face off or stay up late or be studying for this new test or whatever's going to help put the family in a better place than they were yesterday. More money, better house, better neighborhood, better schools, better clothing, better restaurants, better summer camps. Anything that could help make the family better, quote unquote, in a monetary, intangible way. That's where a man values himself. And I really valued my wife's body and looked at that as, I will be honest, as a possession of mine. You are my wife. I'm your husband. And where you value yourself, that is where you will put your valuables. So, or you want your valuables protected. Like, let's just say, I'm going to speculate here a little bit. The average woman values the man's assets. She values him as well, but the assets and the idea that he might be paying for another woman or family's life would probably feel like a deep, deep sense of betrayal, especially if there's maybe a vacation that she wasn't able to go on. The kids weren't able to take advantage of this opportunity because your resources, your value as a man, you put somewhere else. And likewise, conversely, a man, hey, this body that you have, the package that you come in, the woman you are, I am so in love with that. I want to touch it, grab it, squeeze it, hold it, and I don't want anyone else to play with my toy, so to speak. Being a little facetious. It's not a toy, but I don't want anyone to play with what's mine. This is mine, my toy, my wife, mine. but it's not a toy. Your wife isn't a toy. She's not an inanimate object. And when I finally realized that it was like the movie Toy Story, when oh my gosh, I forget what his name was. Whatever the kid's name was, Rory. I'm trying to think of what Tom Hanks was saying. What was his name? Max, Jake. I don't know what his name was. Anyway, when he would leave the room, the toys would come alive and they would go and do things. He would, and it's beyond the pale. He couldn't understand that. He's like, no, when I come back, Woody's moved. Woody's in a different place now. And he's trying to figure out, why is Woody in a different place? Woody got up and he walked around, and Woody did shit when you were gone. But in his mind, Woody is an inanimate object. Woody does what I want when I want. And the idea of someone possibly coming into his house and taking Woody and playing with Woody would be, hey, that's my toy. You got to ask me permission. And then we got to come up with some, like, how long will you have it? Or, no, you can't play with my toy. We're going to get you your own toy. We'll get you your own wife. So when I found out that my wife, when I accepted the truth, that's very hard for a lot of men to do. My wife doesn't belong to me. She's just my wife. And she could choose to give herself to whomever she would like, whenever she would like. And yeah, do I wish maybe there was more trust there and all of that stuff? Yeah, I could unpack that, but I'm not. I'm trying to keep it very binary right now. And that's why I recorded such harsh, angry, frustrated divorce diary rants that are no longer public. I was just a mad, sad, hurt man. And to have this podcaster say that, hey, I heard your story and I would like to talk to you about it. It really made me feel like I mattered, not as it relates to my wife or anything like that. I think that ship has sailed, or is at least sailing. I'm definitely thinking I'm getting over it. We still coexist and have to see each other and speak, and it's not so bad. And maybe this soft out is helpful for me, as opposed to the cold, stab in the heart for divorce that I still don't want. I would like the world to be better and perfect in a way that my wife and I could work together and we could be a happy and honest couple together. But that light's sort of fading. I don't know if that's possible, or if it's something that either of us really would want. But it really made me feel like I mattered. And it impacted her in some way where she would call and want me to come on to her podcast and discuss some things. That was, I don't know. She even asked me questions in today's pre-interview discussion. She asked questions about how'd you feel about this? You seem like a person that tries to take it all on the chin or something. And the more people outside of my small circle that I talk to, that I engage with, it helps me not feel like I'm crazy. Because for a while there, I really questioned my wife's justifications for everything. I'm like, maybe I am like a monster, a super controlling monster. Maybe that's why she feels the need to spend the way that she spends. Maybe I was so horrible that I deserved and I should have been cheated on. And I'll be fair to both of us. To an extent, yes, how you treat the person you're with is going to influence how they treat you. And I didn't always treat my wife well. Didn't. But at the same time, just because you feel like someone didn't treat you well doesn't give you the right to hurt them. And I've hurt my wife as well. So I'm not standing on any sort of podium of I'm better than you. I'm just calling a spade a spade. We've had a really rocky marriage at times. We've had good times. We have children together. We had a lot of conflicts on some really intense moral things that would usually break a marriage and probably should. We just didn't know what we should talk about before we got married, how we should talk about it. Communication's key, because we both could have at least talked to each other to try to figure out not only if we're on the same page, first off, just the fact that there's a book and it's got pages in it and it exists. We should talk about that. There's a book. Here are my conditions. Here are your conditions. That way we could say, oh man, even hearing yourself say it out loud, you know what? You can't cheat on me. Wait, why do you feel the need to say that? You really feel that that's a condition you should say? I don't plan on doing that. No, I need you to understand that if you do that, that's going to mean this for me and it's going to mean that for me. Oh, wow. Okay. This whole fidelity thing is a really big deal for you. I didn't have any plans on violating our fidelity. But hearing you say this, thank you, because thank you. I'll make sure that I try and talk to you or something like that. If I'm ever thinking of doing something or hey, how about, I've read this article that couples, should kind of do a couples therapy thing, maybe from the start of their marriage, once a month maybe, and see if it needs to scale up from there to maybe twice every other week or something, or every week, just to make sure that you guys are able to cleanly talk through things. Hopefully it doesn't last forever or a very long time, but it sort of gets your ship right. Everybody comes in with the same good motivations. We want our marriage to last for a long time. Let's enlist a professional to help us out a little bit to make sure that, this whole life commitment thing, my goodness, all the pain and heartache that everyone feels. Well, I'm experiencing that, going through a divorce. Oh my gosh, would I have spent $3,000, $4,000, $5,000?
I can't let these niggas knock me off my payment.
Sorry, I don't know where I was, but yeah. I don't want to throw out the whole podcast and try to re-record it. So we're just going to call it here. And there's so many things, heavy lifts, light lifts, that we could have probably put out on the table as parameters of how we could hopefully have a successful marriage, but we weren't able to. So it was cool to know that to someone else, my podcast mattered and it affected her enough. And I'm either going to be aired out as the angry, fucktard that I was when I was recording all the episodes, and I'm fixing myself with that. Or, like she said, maybe we'll pull your old episode that I found that I liked, and maybe you can talk about how you reacted in the moment versus how you're feeling about things now. So either way, maybe this podcast is continuing to help me and pay dividends that I didn't understand it would pay. It's helping me diary, basically. That's why it's called the Divorce Diaries. It's helping me diary. It's helping me journal. It's helping me fix myself.
Wow. That was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The daily saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.